My name is Emma Carter. I am 26 years old, and 1 week ago, my life nearly collapsed in a way I never could have imagined. On what was supposed to be one of the happiest nights of my life, my first wedding anniversary. That evening, our home was glowing with warm lights. Soft music played gently in the background, and both my family and my husband's family had gathered together to celebrate. The living room was beautifully decorated with flowers, and a long table was filled with delicious food prepared with care. Guests arrived dressed in their best clothes, carrying gifts and smiles, laughing and enjoying the atmosphere. From the outside, everything looked perfect, like a dream life I once thought I would never have. And for a moment, standing near the window, gently holding my stomach, I truly believed that dream had finally come true. Because I was carrying a secret that made the night even more special. I was 3 months pregnant with our first child, Dot. My husband came and stood beside me, placing his hands softly over mine, asking me if I was happy, and I smiled and told him that I was, because despite everything, I loved him deeply. But beneath that happiness, there was a truth I could never ignore. Our marriage had never been simple. I came from a very humble background, where my parents worked tirelessly just to provide me with a basic education and a decent life. We never had luxury, but we had honesty, respect, and love. My husband, however, belonged to a wealthy and influential family who lived a life of comfort and power that I had only ever seen in movies. When he chose me, it felt unreal, like something that wasn't meant to happen, and his family felt the same way. In the beginning, they tried to be polite, welcoming me with smiles and kind words, but over time, those smiles faded, and their words became colder, sharper, filled with judgment. They would whisper about how I didn't belong, how I was not suited for their lifestyle, how someone from my background could never truly fit into their world. I tried my best to ignore those comments, but slowly, they began to affect me. I started changing myself, the way I dressed, the way I spoke, even the way I behaved, hoping that one day they would accept me. Not because I wanted to be someone else, but because I didn't want to create distance between my husband and his family. He would always reassure me, telling me not to listen to them, reminding me that he had chosen me. And I held on to those words because they were the only thing giving me strength. That night, as the celebration continued, I noticed his family watching me again, whispering among themselves, but I forced myself to ignore it, telling myself that this night was too special to let anything ruin it. After some time, my husband stood up to give a speech, raising his glass as the room slowly became quiet. He thanked everyone for coming and spoke about our journey, our love, and the future we were building together. As I listened to him, my eyes filled with tears, because for that moment, everything felt right. But just as people began to clap, something unexpected happened. A man I had never seen before walked into the room. At first, no one paid much attention, assuming he was a late guest, but instead of greeting anyone, he walked straight toward the center of the room and then turned to look directly at me. There was something unsettling in his gaze that made my heart race with discomfort. The room grew quiet again as confusion spread among the guests, and before anyone could question him, he spoke loudly, saying that he was sorry to interrupt, but that everyone deserved to know the truth. My heart began to pound as I tried to understand what was happening, and then, without hesitation, he pointed at me and said the words that changed everything, that the baby I was carrying was his. For a moment, it felt like time had stopped. The room fell into complete silence, followed by a wave of whispers as people looked at each other in shock and disbelief. I felt the ground slip beneath my feet as I tried to find my voice, telling him that I didn't even know who he was. But he remained calm and confident, claiming that we had an affair and that the child was his. Before I could defend myself further, he took out a file and handed it to one of my husband's relatives, who quickly gathered others around to examine it. They said the documents were medical reports that matched the timeline. And then he showed photos on his phone photos that looked so real that even I felt a moment of confusion. Unable to understand how something like this could exist, The atmosphere in the room shifted completely, turning from celebration to judgment within minutes. My husband's mother stepped forward, her face filled with anger, and, before I could react, she slapped me hard across the face, the sound echoing in the silent room. She called me a disgrace, accusing me of bringing shame to their family, while I stood there in tears, trying desperately to explain that it was all a lie. But no one was willing to listen. One by one, voices rose against me, demanding that my husband divorce me immediately, saying they had always known I was not worthy, blaming my background as proof of my character. Each word felt like a sharp blade cutting into me, leaving me broken and helpless as I looked toward my husband, silently begging him to believe me. Before I could say anything more, the man stepped forward again, pretending to act reluctant, as if he had been forced to reveal the truth, and in that moment, something inside me shattered completely. I shouted at him to stop lying, my voice trembling with pain and desperation, but everything around me felt like it was collapsing. Then suddenly, my husband moved. His calm expression disappeared, replaced by anger as he stepped forward, grabbed the man, and pushed him back before punching him hard. The room froze in shock as he shouted for everyone to stop, his voice filled with authority and emotion. He looked around at everyone and declared firmly that he knew his wife better than anyone in that room, that I would never do something like this, and that he did not care about any papers or photos shown against me. His words created a heavy silence, but his family did not back down. His father stepped forward, warning him to think carefully, reminding him of everything they had given him, while his mother told him that choosing me would mean losing his family forever. Other relatives joined in, threatening that he would lose his name, his wealth, and his future if he stood by me. The pressure in the room became overwhelming, and I felt my body shaking as I realized that this was no longer just about me, but about his entire life. I didn't want to be the reason he lost everything, yet I was terrified that he might choose them over me. For a few moments, no one spoke, as everyone waited for his decision. I could barely breathe, my tears falling silently as I looked at him, too afraid to ask what he would do. Then he made his choice. Without looking at his family, without saying a word to them, he walked toward me, held my hand, and quietly told me to come with him. That simple action spoke louder than anything else, and without hesitation, he walked out of the house with me, ignoring the voices calling after him, ignoring the chaos behind us, choosing me over everything he had ever known. That night, we left his world behind. Sitting in the car, I broke down completely, crying uncontrollably as I kept repeating that I had done nothing wrong, begging him to believe me, but he looked at me calmly and assured me that he trusted me completely, that no matter what anyone said, he would never believe a stranger over his own wife. Those words gave me strength, but he also made it clear that this was not over, that he would find the truth. Over the next few days, he worked tirelessly, using every resource he had to track down the man who initially tried to avoid him but was eventually found and forced to confess. Under pressure, the man admitted that everything had been a lie, that he had been paid by my husband's own family to create this story, to present fake evidence, and to destroy our marriage. The reason was simple yet painful. They had never accepted me, and did not want my child to be part of their legacy or share in their wealth. When we confronted his family, they did not deny it. Instead, they tried to justify their actions, claiming they had done it for his future. But my husband looked at them with a level of disappointment that words could not describe. He told them that they had broken his trust, that they had nearly destroyed his life, his marriage, and his unborn child. Then, with quiet strength, he made his final decision, saying that from that moment on, he had no family there. And just like that, he walked away, holding my hand, leaving behind everything, proving that true love is not about status or wealth, but about trust, loyalty, and standing by the person you believe in, even when the entire world stands against them.